Imagine being kicked out of your own baby shower, by your sister. Now imagine they did it without knowing you owned the entire venue. That's what happened to me. Before I tell you how I turned the tables and exposed everything in front of friends and family, drop your country or city in the comments. I want to know where you're watching from. My name is Becca, I'm 28, from Chicago. And the story I'm about to tell you isn't about some petty sister drama. It's about betrayal, about family gaslighting, and about how I turned my pain into power, right in front of everyone who doubted me. It all started on a Thursday night, 10:12 p.m. sharp. I was lying in bed, one hand on my growing belly, scrolling through photos of pastel balloons and cakes that Cynthia, my sister, had posted online. My baby shower, well, what was *L supposed to be mine, was happening the next morning. That's when a text came in. It was short, just one line. Please don't come tomorrow. It's better for everyone. I stared at the message. I read it twice, 3 times. No, sorry, no explanation, just cold, final. Cynthia, my own sister. The same sister who insisted she plan the whole thing. The one who begged to host it at some cute new event space she had found. The one who told me I should just relax and not worry about a thing. I placed the phone down slowly on my nightstand, next to a black keycard with a silver V etched on the surface. That wasn't just any card. That was the master key to Venue Collective. My company. My space. They didn't know. Not Cynthia. Not our mother Hannah. Not our cousin Olivia. No one in my family ever asked what I really did. They thought I was working front desk at some event company. And I let them think that. Because honestly, they never cared to know. To them, I was just Becca, the one who got pregnant by accident, who didn't finish law school, the one they prayed for in group chats without ever picking up the phone. Let me back up a bit. The only reason Cynthia even threw me this baby shower was because she wanted to impress people. Show off her Pinterest boards. Prove to our family that she was the perfect sister. Not because she cared about me or the baby. I knew it. I felt it every time she fake smiled and called me Mama Bear in public, only to roll her eyes when no one was looking. But I stayed quiet. I showed up. I smiled. Because that's what we're taught to do, right? Until they pushed me too far. And they really did, because I found out later from a friend that Cynthia had completely rebranded the shower. Told guests that it was a girls' brunch for her. Uninvited anyone who might remind people that it was my day. She even told people I was too emotional and causing drama. She didn't know I'd be watching. She didn't know I owned the cameras in every corner of that building. She didn't know I was the landlord of her fantasy. So the next morning, I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I got dressed. Not in maternity sweats, but in a sleek cream wrap dress. I called my assistant. Locked down the West Hall, I said. Tell staff to redirect all catering and decorations to the rooftop garden. Use the guest list I gave you. My guest list. By 11 a.m., while Cynthia and her fake crew of bridesmaids were fluffing napkins and prepping mimosa stations, staff walked in calmly and began removing everything. Cynthia freaked. What are you doing? She shrieked, grabbing at a balloon garland as it was gently pulled down. The manager handed her a copy of the contract. Venue booked under Rebecca L. Hart. Full authority granted. She turned pale. Becca, she stammered. Wait, Rebecca Hart, that's you. I stepped out from the back office at that exact moment. Good morning, Cynthia, I said, voice cool. I thought you didn't want me here. She stood there frozen. Her mouth opened, then closed. Our mom Hannah came rushing in, red-faced. What's going on here? What did you do? I looked at her calmly. I took back what was mine. And this time, you don't get to rewrite the story. The tears came. Silent, angry tears that blurred the windshield even though the car wasn't moving. And the night before my own baby shower one my sister Cynthia had planned, she kicked me out of it. Right there at a fancy dinner table, with strangers watching and my parents pretending they didn't hear it. But what Cynthia didn't know was the venue, the one with her name on the invites. The one she swore was just a good deal she found online. It belonged to me, and I was about to remind them who they had dismissed. Hours earlier, before everything exploded, I had been sitting in my city flat. A quiet space I kept away from everyone. Just me and my thoughts. On my shelf sat a glass award. Tri-State Area Entrepreneur of the Year. It wasn't for show. I hadn't even posted it online. It sat quietly behind books because success, to me, wasn't about proving people wrong. Until that night, my phone rang. It was Anachin Maiku. She was more than an executive, she was my only real family these days. You sure you want to go to this dinner? She asked gently. They don't deserve you, Becca. I looked out the window at the skyline and sighed. I have to try, Anna. Just once more. For them. You don't owe them anything, she said quietly. Remember who you are. I didn't answer. I just hung up and got dressed. The restaurant was stupidly expensive. The kind of place where menus didn't list prices, and waiters adjusted your napkin when you stood up. I wore a soft lilac midi dress. Elegant. Quiet. Nothing flashy. But when I walked in, Cynthia's future mother-in-law Hannah Keller eyed me like I'd stepped in dirt and dragged it across the marble floor. She leaned in as I took my seat. Becca, right? She asked with fake warmth. I heard you're in events. How sweet. You must love helping other people shine. I smiled, tight and controlled. Something like that. Hannah turned to her friends. Brendan's in investment banking. We just adore people who really go after success, don't we? The message was clear. I was beneath them. But the real blow came minutes later, when Cynthia stood up and tapped her glass. I just want to make a quick announcement, she said, voice shaking slightly. Everyone went silent. She cleared her throat and looked everywhere but at me. After some thought, and in light of how we want tomorrow to go, we've decided it's best if Becca doesn't attend the baby shower. The words hit like a slap. She continued, fidgeting with her necklace. It's just, she doesn't really fit the aesthetic. And we don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable. Uncomfortable. I was carrying a child, and she was worried about aesthetic. I turned to my parents. My mom was focused on her plate like it was a Rosetta Stone. My dad sipped his wine like he hadn't heard a thing. They were silent, letting it happen. I stood up. My hands didn't shake. My voice didn't waver. I understand, I said quietly. Thanks for making that clear. And I walked out. But the second I got into my car, everything cracked. I gripped the steering wheel so tight, my knuckles turned white. I screamed, not because I was sad, but because I realized I had let this family humiliate me again. I'd given them the benefit of the doubt, and they used it to cut me out of my own celebration. No more. By 6 a.m. the next morning, the venue staff had instructions. Cancel the Keller reservation, reopen the rooftop suite, set up my guest list, the real friends, the family I'd chosen. I didn't send a warning, no confrontation, just silence. And by noon, Cynthia and Hannah would show up in pastel heels and matching headbands, expecting to pose in front of balloon arches. What they'd find would be nothing but locked doors and a cold note taped to the gate. Feynman began, his voice steady and cold. Mr. and Mrs. Hartwell, Ms. Keller. My name is Mark Feynman, and I represent Hartwell Events Group. Due to a breach in our Code of Conduct clause, specifically Clause 7b concerning defamation, reputation damage, and abusive behavior, my client, Ms. Becca Hartwell, has exercised her legal right to cancel all services and access to the property at Willowbrook Gardens. Melissa blinked rapidly, her face pale and frozen. But, it's my baby shower. I didn't sign anything. I didn't know. Mark cut her off calmly. The venue was booked under a corporate umbrella account tied to Ms. Hartwell. She owns both the reservation and the company. You didn't know that, which is understandable. But your behavior was documented, witnessed, and formally flagged. And that's why access has been denied. My mom finally spoke up. But, Becca, she's your sister, this is going to ruin everything. The guests, the photos. And where was that energy yesterday? I asked, leaning closer to the screen. When she humiliated me at that dinner. When she said I didn't fit the aesthetic for my own celebration. My mom looked away. My dad sighed heavily. Look, Becca, he tried, we all make mistakes. Your sister was just under a lot of pressure. You know how these things are with Hannah. Stop, I said, cutting him short. Stop making excuses for her. You always do. And this time, it cost her something. Melissa jumped in, her voice cracking. I didn't know you owned the venue, Becca. I didn't mean to, but you meant to erase me, I replied. From my own moment, just like you always do. And you didn't expect me to fight back, did you? Her lips quivered, and she stayed silent. Mark adjusted his glasses. If this discussion is no longer productive, I suggest we conclude here. Legal action won't be pursued further unless attempts are made to slander Ms. Hartwell or her brand moving forward. All documents will be sent shortly. I nodded at Mark, and he exited the call. Now it was just the four of us. I didn't speak. I just stared into the screen, letting the silence sit. My mom finally whispered, I didn't know you were doing so well, Becca. I almost laughed. Yeah, you didn't ask. That afternoon, I walked through the rooftop garden of the real baby shower. My baby bump hugged in a soft satin dress, the city skyline behind me, and guests my people, laughing, clinking glasses, and taking pictures in front of the floral arch I designed myself. There was no drama, no fake smiles, just joy, just peace. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I had to shrink myself to make room for anyone else. Every article, every feature, every review. She wrote that it broke her to realize how little she really knew about me, how much she had judged me without ever trying to understand the woman I had become. She said the moment she saw my name listed as founder and CEO, she burst into tears. I thought I was protecting myself from embarrassment, she wrote. But what I really did was humiliate myself by pushing away the one person who's always done more with less. It wasn't an instant fix. Letters don't magically erase years of distance or damage. But it was a start. Still, I didn't respond. Not right away. I wasn't sure if the letter came from genuine regret, or just the guilt of being exposed. A few weeks later, Hannah, our mother, showed up unannounced. I was at the Venue Collective West building, in the conference room overlooking the river. My assistant buzzed in through the intercom. Ma'am, there's a Hannah Keller here. She says she's your mother. I sighed. Let her in. When she stepped through the glass doors, I was struck by how small she looked. Not physically, but emotionally. Her posture wasn't proud like it used to be. She looked like someone who had finally run out of ways to justify herself. Hi, she said softly, her voice barely audible. I motioned for her to sit. She looked around the room, the awards on the wall, the sleek glass table, the buzzing cityscape behind me. Then her eyes met mine. I always thought you were just angry, she began. Rebellious. Too private. I didn't realize you were just surviving. I didn't respond. I let her speak. I know I failed you, Becca. Not just during the baby shower, but for a long time. You didn't get the soft version of me. You got the stressed, disappointed version. The version who thought survival meant keeping up appearances. She paused, voice trembling. But you survived anyway, better than any of us. That moment sitting across from her, hearing words I'd longed for since I was 17, it was strange. A part of me wanted to scream. Another part just wanted her to leave. Instead, I said, why now? She swallowed. Because Cynthia told me you were having another baby. And I don't want to miss another beginning. I stared at her for a long time. My hand unconsciously rested on my stomach. The truth is, revenge wasn't what healed me. It was choosing myself. It was waking up the morning after they humiliated me, and still believing I was worthy of love, celebration, and joy, even if I had to create it myself. It was standing in the mirror and whispering, you are not disposable. You are essential. A year after that letter from Cynthia, I stood at our cousin's wedding, yes, held at Rosewood, the same estate I once offered to them at full commercial price. Only this time, I wasn't in the shadows. I wasn't the overlooked sister or the accidental success story. I was Becca Hartwell, CEO, mother, daughter, sister, and woman finally seen. I watched Cynthia across the room. She caught my eye and smiled, not the forced kind she used to wear when trying to impress people. This was something softer, something real. She excused herself from the group she was standing with and walked toward me. "Hey," she said gently, reaching for a canapé off the passing tray. "You look amazing." "Thanks," I said. "You look calmer." She laughed, a little embarrassed. "Therapy helps." We stood there in silence for a few beats, the music swelling behind us. Then she turned to me. "You know, that shower. I think about it all the time. What we all did was cruel. But I also think maybe it had to happen for us to get here." I looked at her for a long moment. "Maybe," I said, "but next time, don't throw the baby out with the sister." We both laughed. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, and that was more than I ever thought I'd get. Later that night, during the reception, I stepped out onto the balcony. The gardens of Rosewood glowed under fairy lights. Laughter floated through the windows. My son kicked gently inside me. "Yes, son." I hadn't told anyone yet. That's when my phone buzzed. "Dad." I stared at the name, unsure if I should answer. Finally, I did. "Hey, he said, his voice unsure. "Quick question, I'm thinking of moving some of my retirement funds." I was looking at this tech portfolio. "What do you think?" I blinked. Not a guilt trip. Not a backhanded compliment. Not even a favor. He was just asking for advice. From me. From Becca. After the call ended, I looked out over the soft moonlit garden, lifted a glass of champagne, and whispered a quiet toast. To peace. To choosing myself. To never needing anyone's permission to be whole. Because in the end, revenge didn't rebuild me. Self-respect did. And when they finally saw my worth, it didn't change me. It changed them. Thank you so much for listening to my story. It's been a long road, and I'm still walking it, but now on my own terms. Have you ever had to rebuild your life without the people who were supposed to support you? Or had to draw new lines with family to protect your peace? Let me know your experience in the comments. I really want to hear it. And if this story touched you in any way, please like this video, subscribe for more real-life stories, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that they're not alone.